Most people hit an invisible ceiling with AI and they don't even realize it. They try ChatGPT once or twice, get decent results, and assume that's as good as it gets. Meanwhile, a small group of people are using the same tools to automate work, build agents, and move far faster than everyone else. I'm Simon. I've built and sold AI automations to companies across multiple industries, and now I coach people to do the same. In the next 25 minutes, you'll learn exactly which models to trust, the framework to control them without being technical, and most importantly, how to stop just chatting with AI and actually start building systems that do the work for you. If AI feels confusing, noisy, or overwhelming, then this is the reset you've been missing. Now, before we open up any tools, we need to know where you're trying to go. Most people watching this will fall into one of two camps. Identifying which one you are right now will help you focus on what actually matters for you. So first we have the Explorer. And this is where everyone starts, and honestly where 90% of people will stay. And that's totally fine. So you aren't necessarily trying to code or rebuild your business. You just want to feel confident, understand what's possible, and speed up the manual work that you already do. So this might be like never writing anything from scratch. So whether it's a difficult email, a report, or a newsletter, you just use AI to get that first draft done for you in seconds. So you just have to edit. Or it might be taking long documents, messy meeting notes, or large PDF reports and asking AI to give you the need to know bullet points for those reports. Or finally, it might be actually just polishing your work. So you stick your rough notes into AI and say, make this sound professional, fix this grammar, or make this more persuasive, or target this particular lead. And what this leads to is getting 20% of your day back and the work feeling less draining and less manual. Then the second type is the builder. This is for those of you who want to go a layer deeper. So you want to build systems that run in the background. You want to stop being that copy-paste person, and you want to stop hiring more people and scale your business to manage those admin tasks with AI agents instead of workforce. So in practice, this might be, instead of manually sorting your inbox every morning or every week, AI reads your emails as they come in, labels the invoices, archives those newsletters you don't read anyway, and draft replies to the leads. Or it might be when a new client on your website fills out a form, AI automatically researches them on LinkedIn and adds their profile to your spreadsheet that you use every week. Without you ever clicking a button, it happens automatically. Or it might even be using AI as your personal assistant. So you're telling AI to find you a flight to Los Angeles next week for under $600, and it goes away and actually does the research for you like a PA would, and checks those options and comes back with some suggestions. So what this actually leads to is you not only being faster in the work that you do, but you're actually building systems that work while you sleep and only need supervision, much like hiring a junior employee. So whether you're an explorer or a builder, the foundation is exactly the same. You cannot build a system if you don't know how the tools work. So let's start off with some basics, the key terms. So let's start with the most prominent one, which is large language model, or LLM. Now this is the engine powering tools like ChatGPT or Claude, and you can just think of it as autocomplete on steroids. So all it is doing in the back end is actually just predicting the next word based on patterns. So you enter a query and it's predicting what word should come next, and that is your answer that it returns back for you. Now, when you're typing something into ChatGPT, we're using a prompt. So it's the instruction that you type into the chat box, and the better your instructions, the better ChatGPT can actually understand what you need. So filling it out with examples of what's good and what's not good is absolutely critical, and we'll touch on this later with a framework that you can take away today. Now, tokens are the currency that ChatGPT or other large language model providers use to count text and charge you for that usage. This is how they know how much you've used inside your $20 a month subscription and whether you've gone over that or in your free plan. So roughly 1,000 tokens equals 750 words, and every model has a limit on how many it can handle at once, how many tokens, and that's called the context window. And over time, context windows have expanded massively to allow for millions of tokens in some models, far beyond what you could reasonably type into the box, unless you were writing out an entire novel inside the chat window. Now, the next key term you need to know is multimodal, and this just means different inputs and output formats. So we're used to writing text in, but we can also add images, video, and audio rather than text. So you can show ChatGPT, for example, a screenshot, upload a PDF, or even speak to it on your screen, and it understands it all. Now, when we're looking at different input formats, we also need to understand the term OCR, or optical character recognition. So this is just the tech that lets computers read images. So it turns your photo of a receipt from the restaurant or a handwritten note into an actual text paragraph that the AI can work with. So we have various OCR models, which are just translating images to text. Now, if you've used ChatGPT a lot, you'll understand the next one, which is hallucination. This is when ChatGPT confidently tells you a lie because it's prioritizing a smooth sounding sentence over a factually correct one. And the last three are slightly more advanced, but super important if you want to dig deep into AI. We've got retrieval augmented generation, which sounds complicated. It's shortened to RAG, but this is just a key fix for those hallucinations that we just mentioned. So it's just a way of forcing AI to read specific context or documents that you pass into the prompt before it actually comes back with an answer. So it stops guessing and starts actually citing your data. So this is super critical for business systems that are data heavy, because it means we're able to store so much more context without paying for tokens of putting all the context into the prompt window. And then finally, you need to understand the distinction between an agentic workflow and an AI agent. They're totally separate things, but similar in nature. So we'll start with agentic workflow, which you can think of like a digital checklist. It's following a strict path of step A, then step B, then step C. It doesn't think or make choices. It just follows that path and blindly executes those specific rules you've given it exactly the same way every time. But you can put an LLM prompt inside that. It will just follow that prompt every single time. Step A, step B, step C. Whereas an AI agent is more like a smart assistant. So you don't give it those specific steps necessarily, you give it a goal. Let's say the goal is book a meeting for me next Tuesday at 2 p.m. The agent, based on its prompt, is going to figure out which steps to take, which tools to use, like a connected calendar tool, and make decisions on the fly. So you can attach multiple tools, and we of course need to tell it what tools it has attached, but it actually takes a goal and works out what things it needs to do, and is more of an iterative approach in itself. All right, that's the theory. Now let's talk about the exciting stuff, which is the actual tools. So if you rewind 2 years ago, the landscape was pretty rough in terms of tools. You had images with blurry faces being produced, robotic voices, clunky workflows that barely connected our apps. But fast forward to today, 2026, and what AI can do is almost indistinguishable from real life. So let's break it down into the 5 big categories you actually need to care about. And we'll start off with the chat interfaces, the one you're most familiar with. So this is the brain of the operation, and it could be, for example, the chat window inside of GPT, and it's where 99% of people start. But the mistake most people make is stopping at just trying one chat interface. So how many of you have just tried ChatGPT, never looked at Anthropic, at Gemini, at Perplexity? I know I was guilty of this early on as well. And the truth is, while they look similar in practice, i.e. it has a chat window that you ask questions into, they have very, very different personalities. So you first have the generalists. So you have ChatGPT, which I guess you can consider the Swiss Army knife. It's the best all-rounder for any query that you want to pursue, and you're probably most familiar with it. We then have Claude, by a company called Anthropic, and you can think of Claude as a deep thinker versus ChatGPT. It's widely considered the best for writing code and also for nuanced writing. So if you want to write an email that doesn't sound like an AI wrote it, you'd probably go for Claude over ChatGPT. Now, the other powerhouse here is actually Gemini, which is a Google product. And this is for power users in the Google ecosystem, and is often much cheaper and much faster than other models. So think high quality for low price. So this has the latest and greatest image models, such as Nano Banana, and you've probably seen those images doing the rounds at the moment. So we've then got the specialist. The first specialist that you absolutely need to know is Perplexity. So notoriously named the Google killer, instead of giving you 10 blue links in a search engine's results page, it browses the internet, reads the articles, and gives you a single cited answer. We're literally able to perform some deep research where it will go out and it will produce an in-depth report with a ton of sources, charts, and advanced reasoning on a specific topic. You can literally research anything here, and it's so much more impressive than typing in a query that requires web search in ChatGPT. And then we have another Google product, which is actually called Notebook LM. So this is a bit of a wild card, but basically everything we talked about earlier with retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, where we store all of our documents or all of our context for our prompts, that is basically what Notebook LM is able to do. So we can add sources of all of our different data here. We can connect it to our YouTube YouTube, connect it to our website, connect it to our Google Drive, upload certain files. And this basically becomes the repository of specific data for you or your business or your context. So it can even generate things like a 2-person podcast discussing your notes to help you learn faster. We can produce things like infographic, flashcards, mind maps. But the most important part here is actually it's pulling always from your context. So it's a form of RAG. So we never have to give it the context, it will always go out and find it in our data that we've uploaded. So those are the platforms that we use. What about LLM models? Now, quick warning, this list changes extremely fast. I'll drop this video, I'll mention some models, and then next week there'll be a ton of new models to try and test. So what I'm going to do is instead give you a way to not marry the models and go to a place where you can actually just find the best models around. And we do that through a website called LM Arena. So if you go to lmarena.ai, it's find the best AI for you. You can actually ask it questions, so it's got its own chat interface, but I'd recommend just going to the leaderboard and the overview, scrolling down to the bottom where we've actually got the Arena overview. So you can see for whatever use case you want to do, whether it's coding or creative writing, and you can actually see the top models, crowdsourced rankings from over 100,000 people in blind tests where they've said actually Gemini 3 Pro would be the best for creative writing use cases. And you can just come in here and decide actually for this use case, I'm going to use Gemini 3 Pro or Claude Opus 4.5 because actually a lot of others have tested this and said that this is the best use case. So it's crowdsourced social proof of the best models. You don't need to keep up with every single model. Just go to LM Arena every time. And it's a way to see those unbiased reviews of what is actually winning right now. But here is the catch. You can have the smartest model in the world, whether it's GPT-5, Claude, Opus, Gemini, it doesn't matter. But if you give it garbage instructions, you're always going to get garbage results. So to actually get any value out of these interfaces or the models underlying them, you need to know how to speak their language, which brings us on to the important topic of prompting. Now, you don't need to be a prompt engineer. You just need to be a good manager and understand the framework. So treating the AI exactly like a smart new employee on their first day is exactly how I approach it. So if you just say, write a report about electric cars, it hasn't got enough context, and it would be exactly the same if you were to do the same to a new employee. They'd either ask a ton of questions back because they're lacking the context, which is stuff you should have given them in the first place, or write a report that's probably not aligned with what you want. Whereas if you give them a clear operating procedure, then they will do so much better. And we need to do exactly the same when we're chatting to these interfaces or prompting any different model. So it doesn't matter what framework you use here, as long as you have a clear, consistent framework that you can use every time. So I personally use a system called Critics, and it's just an acronym that's very, very easy to remember, and it covers everything the model needs to know to get it right first time. So first up, we have constraints. What are the rules that the response needs to abide by? So should the response be under 200 words? Contain no emojis, use UK English or US English. We then have role. So who is the AI? You are a senior copywriter, you are a Python expert. You need to tell it what role it is playing in this, because the role helps it give contextualized responses. We need to tell it what data that is going to be on the inputs. Hence like if we were passing in a meeting transcript, we would tell it that we're passing in that context. Otherwise, it's not going to know how to use it or what it has available to it. And similarly, if we've got a special tool attached, whether it's searching the web for the latest pricing or access to a calendar to book a meeting, it needs to understand what tools it has attached. Then once it understands the context that is available to it, we need to give it those instructions. So giving it a step-by-step task list, like first summarize the text that's input, then pull out 3 action items from the meeting and present it in a certain way. Those would be the instructions, and obviously we can build those out in greater detail as well. We then have actually what we want to get output. So we have the conclusion. So what does the output format look like? Is it a list of bullet points? Is it a summary less than 300 characters, a table with 3 columns? The conclusions are our output formats here. And then finally, one that a lot of people miss is the solutions or the error handling. So what should the model actually do if it doesn't have the right information it's expected to have? So for example, if you can't find the price, don't guess the price of my product, leave the cell blank and tell me that you haven't been able to find the price. So it addresses those troubleshooting or the exceptions that we're not expecting it to do. Now, this sounds like a lot of typing. Do not spend 20 minutes writing the perfect prompt. Start with an 80% version, write the rough instructions in a framework, hit enter and see what comes back. If it's wrong, don't rewrite the whole thing, just tell it what it missed and iterate the prompt from there. You're trying to build the relationship. This will save you a lot of time instead of writing everything from scratch each time. And if you want an even quicker way, the cheat sheet to this step, I've actually built a custom Claude project inside my school community. You just tell it what you want in plain English, and it will automatically ask you questions and then rewrite your request into a perfect critics format for you. Now, it's not going to be 100% every time, but it gets you to the 80% version within less than 5 minutes. So it turns a lazy instruction that you've given it with no context into that pro level prompt in a couple of seconds that you can then version control and iterate from. So you can grab a link in the description below to the school community if you're interested in shortcutting that. So next up, we have image generation. And this is where AI has gone from drawing weird hands, as you might have seen before, to creating hyper-realistic photos that could fool anyone. And you can use image generation in two main ways. You can do text to image where you literally describe what you want. So you might say a cinematic shot of a founder working in a neon lit office, and in 60 seconds, it creates that from scratch. Or actually you might input an image and expect an image being returned. So this is called image to image. So where you upload a real photo and tell AI to change my outfit, change the lighting, give me a headshot, but keep the same person in framing. So people are using this for things like YouTube thumbnails, product photos, ad visuals, website design. The outputs are getting really impressive and you can actually use it for a lot of business use cases that create value. Even entire brand photo shoots without ever picking up a photo. I was seriously impressed by Google's latest image models that I created a video entirely on generating images with those that you can check my channel for. And in terms of image models, all you need to know is what are the top models right now. So we've still got Midjourney, which is a brilliant front runner for creative and art stylized looks. So if you're looking for that creative style and actually make it arty, then it's Midjourney. We've got Gemini 3 Pro, or famously called Nano Banana, for high-end photography, things like text insertion, which previous models always struggled with. And then we've got specialized services like Ideogram 2.0 for things like brand graphics and text, and Recraft for clean, consistent vector work. So those models are actually just specialized to deal with certain things, whereas Midjourney and Gemini 3 are more broad and generalized. And all of these obviously are individual models, but if you want a single interface where you can try all of them out, then you can try platforms like Leonardo.ai, which is one of the longest standing ones, and it allows you in this clean interface to access all the different image models. Or if you're more interested in video as well, you can go to Higgsfield AI and you can see this really slick interface where they give you access to all those different models at a set price. You just pay for tokens in this platform and don't have to jump between those. It allows you to really easily compare the outputs, because right now none of them are perfect, so you often want to put them side by side, which leads us nicely onto video generation. And honestly, this one is blowing everyone's mind. We've gone from 2-second test clips a couple of years ago to full-on cinematic scenes that look like they were shot on a high-performance filming camera. There's even a famous comparison of models over the time making the rounds of Will Smith eating spaghetti made by AI models 2 years ago versus Will Smith eating spaghetti today. And the difference in those models is astounding. So you can type a short scene description and generate text to video, or take a static image, much like we can with the image models, and bring it to life with image to video. You can talk about smooth motion, you can add lighting features, and even talk about camera angles and get various results in there. And right now, the tools leading the charge are Google's Veo 3 and Kling AI. And these two are producing video quality that's scarily good, with consistent characters between scenes, often natural movement, some hilariously bad, but it's sometimes a bit hit and miss with AI video generation, and also full cinematic storytelling. So I did a video comparison of all the latest models in December, and I'd recommend checking that out if you're looking into video. I compared them all side by side so you could see, for things like character consistently, full adverts, etc., how they performed. And then the other fascinating space inside video generation is the UGC, or user generated content avatar space. So we've got HeyGen, which lets you create a digital twin that speaks in any language with perfect lip sync. You can see I've been testing it out here lately. And no, before you ask, this is actually me and not an AI avatar producing this video. But it's even got to the point where it's able to do hand gestures for you. Now, they're not perfect, But if you had no production setup and just wanted to put in a script, then this is a very good option. And then we've got specific services like arcads.ai that allows you to put characters into UGC scenes and have these very realistic looking UGC adverts. And you can see they've got 1,000 AI actors, which are actual people that have put themselves forward to be models for these UGC scenes. So these are outputting incredible things, which is brilliant content for short form platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So creators are normally using these tools for things like YouTube B-roll, social clips, short films, product demos, basically anything that needs really clear visuals without having to pay for the shoot or a model. Now, image and video are brilliant, but they mean nothing if you can't actually have a lifelike voice, bring it to life. We've all heard those AI answer phones that we can tell immediately are AI, and it just sounds very robotic and flat. But today, if you use a platform like 11 Labs, which is the front runner in this space, they sound almost indistinguishable, like actually human. The tone, the pacing, the emotion, and even breath patterns are built into the speech here. And you can actually, with the right prompting, add things like break times, certain dashes which emphasize things, and you can turn any script into natural spoken audio and even make a professional clone of your own voice. So you can make brand videos, podcasts, training content, anything with this. And I even went to mock up the start of this video in my own professionally cloned voice to show you how realistic this actually is. Most people hit an invisible ceiling with AI and they don't even realize it. They try ChatGPT once or twice, get decent results. So we can even control things like speed, stability, how similar it is to our cloned voice, and style exaggeration. All these things make it sound even more human. And now you're probably really questioning whether this video was entirely made by AI or not, right? Well, I can assure you it wasn't, but we are heading that way. And voice is quickly becoming what makes AI generated video actually feel human and not AI generated anymore. Now, the part that most people overlook, my favorite part, connecting different systems. So this is where you move from experimenting with AI in that ChatGPT window to actually building with it. So think about it like wiring up the brain with the body of your system. It starts with those simple, if this happens, then take this action automations. But now with AI agents involved, these tools can reason, they can read a message, they can decide what to do and take action all without your inputs. So basically reducing the amount of thinking we need to do and really pushing you towards that builder status. So my go-to here is N8N. It's insanely powerful for chaining all your different software together. And it's actually what I'm known for. If you look at my channel, I have tons of N8N tutorials to get you started, including a complete 4-hour course on how to go from zero to actually connecting all your different business systems. And this will be a real unlock for you. Once you can connect everything, all those images we've talked about, the video, the voices, the data in your apps, once you can actually chat to ChatGPT in the middle of the workflow and it's connected to the right context using those RAG systems, at this point, you have the full tool set. You know the terms, you know the models, and you've seen the different software capabilities for all the different image, video, chat interfaces, and now connecting those systems together. But you're missing the one crucial piece that separates building cool demos from a real business solution. And that is knowing where to actually start when you're building out solutions. So there are thousands of AI tutorials out there that jump straight into the build. They show you how to connect nodes, how to write little segments of code. But in a real business, if you start building without having a plan of what you're actually going to automate, you will ultimately fail or you'll automate the wrong thing. So before you even touch N8N or Make or Zapier, whichever platform you choose, you need to follow a simple planning protocol, which we're going to go through right now. First, don't try and automate everything. It sounds obvious, but look for the tasks in your business which are highly repetitive, low creativity tasks. So something bad would be saying, actually, I want to automate my entire marketing strategy. You might have that as a long-term goal, but in the short term, it's too complex, too creative, and not deterministic enough. We need to know the exact steps that we are replacing. So we either need to sit down with our team and understand the exact steps they're taking or simplify our goal here. So instead, you might say, actually, instead of automating my entire marketing strategy, every time a lead fills out a form on my website, we're going to research them on LinkedIn and then add that lead to HubSpot, something we do manually at the moment anyway. It's highly repetitive. It's logical steps that are broken down into software that we can actually start automating. Once you have the exact automation that's going to add value to you, you need to define the bookends. So we're going to ignore the messy middle part for now, and we're just going to start with the two easiest things. What is going to start this? Is it somebody filling out a form on your website? Or is it actually an email arriving, or every week this report needs to be made? So what is the trigger? What starts this process? And where do we want to get to? So what does done actually look like? Is it a draft reply is created in my inbox? Is it the contact is added to HubSpot? And if you can't clearly name the start and the finish line, don't go and open the software. You need to do this first. We need to define the trigger, we need to define the outcome, and then we map the messy middle between those, which is just data transformation, inputs, outputs, and what we need to do with the data in between. So often you'll see YouTube tutorials that assume that data is perfect, but if you've ever worked with business data, you'll understand that it is far from perfect. People have entered things into cells that have overwritten formulas, like all of those kind of things. What if the file format is wrong? What if the API actually fails? How does it handle it if the email is missing? You need to map out all of these what if scenarios on paper before you actually try to build anything and connect those systems. Now, I don't expect any of you to keep all of this knowledge in your head, and I have a specific automation planning worksheet that I use for every single client project to map out this workflow and connecting systems visually. So if you want to see exactly how I use that worksheet to take a messy business process and turn it into a clear, buildable blueprint on the N8N canvas, then watch this next